1,
2,
3,
4,
5,
6,
7.
8.
Hi, my name is Oscar, and I've been aquascaping for about 4 years. Online, as I'm known as the planted element.
And I'm Christine. I've been aquascaping for about a year and a half, and you might also know me as Aquascape Neophyte on Instagram.
So, Christine, how did you get into aquascaping?
It happened about a year and a half ago, and I had just flown home from my parents' place. And I went to go pick up some dog food at the store and came home with a betta and thought, oh, I can put this betta in a vase and it's gonna be great. And I had a big vase at home, and so I did that. And then shortly after, I started reading about it, and I was like, oh, this betta needs a better home than just a vase. So then I ordered a tank, and shortly after the tank came, I was like, I think I need to give it a better home. And then got plants, and it all started to spiral out of control from there on after. How about yourself?
So my youngest son was born, and I had some time on my hands as I was able to take about 6 months off work. And during that time, I really wanted to get more creative and go back to the creativity that I used to enjoy when I was younger. And I always had frogs, newts, salamanders, fish, and glass boxes. And I kind of got away from that as I got older, but I had some time, and so I started doing some research online and came across George Farmer and loved what he did, and since then I haven't looked back.
Do you remember probably, what do you think you would have liked to have known getting into it? You know, the things, if only I knew this when I started.
I think one of the biggest ones was just to do it. I think I spent a lot of time looking at what other people were doing and not really thinking about what I wanted to do with it, and then kind of hesitating along the way until finally I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. And I got the tank, and I just started putting stuff in there and just seeing how it would develop and evolve, and it ended up turning out great. The one thing that was really great about all that research is that it did help me to understand that it was more than just keeping plants and keeping fish. Like, I had to understand how to keep them healthy. So that meant knowing things like the nitrogen cycle. So I highly recommend anyone to learn things like that before jumping fully in, just so that, you know, fish don't die, plants don't melt. But if that does happen, it does happen to everyone. So it's completely okay if the fish jumps out of the aquarium, if the plants start to melt, if something dies. Like, it's just part of the hobby. So don't get discouraged by it. For yourself, what would you say are the best tips for somebody who's just getting into the hobby?
I think the things that I would have probably liked to know that I know now are, you know, have fun. When you start a hobby, for myself, I do a lot of research, and I get into reading it, and then I get a little bit nervous about like making sure everything's successful and everything goes right. And this hobby is so far from about everything going right. It's actually learning from things not going right, how to improve stuff, what works better, and it sort of evolves you. So definitely I would say having fun. And then secondly, I would say you're going to make a mess and accept it, because anything to do with the tank and water, there's nobody who doesn't spill water on the floor. Whether you're going in to clean one little leaf off of a plant, or whether you're doing a full-on water change, you're probably going to get water on the floor, and it's okay.
One tank always leads to two.
So we're here in beautiful Calgary, Canada, just east of the Rocky Mountains at Felix Smart. And Oscar, why don't you tell us a little bit about how we got here?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I reached out to the Felix Smart team because here in Calgary, the aquascaping hobby is not big. So when I found that there was, you know, a group of people who were interested in it and actually had a studio, obviously I tried to invite myself. But during that time, you know, it just wasn't the right time or place to do it. So we held off for a bit, and about 4 months ago, we reached out again and we were able to connect, really hit it off, really had the same level of passion and interest for the hobby. So we were able to kind of get together and organize something to do.
Great, and what are we doing today?
So today we're going to be scaping this beautiful UNS 90L, which is currently lit by the Twin Star light, and the filter is the Oase Biomaster 600 Thermo. But the key component to this setup is going to be the Felix Smart system, which will monitor and watch out for this aquarium and set up for us once it's all said and done.
Cool. So we will provide all the information for the equipment that we just ran through in the links below. So, Oscar, what do we have planned for today?
So today, my idea with this scape was to do a island style scape. So focusing on having something a little bit more centralized. The main reason I wanted to do that is obviously we have these beautiful living walls and the tank is right in the middle. So it's already a bit symmetrical, and I kind of wanted to play with that idea and have the scape right in the middle be the main focal point. And also that kind of played into how I selected the plants and the hardscape. So we have tropical plants, a bunch of different types, a lot of epiphytes, so like Anubias, Barteri nana petite, which we'll use obviously attached to driftwood and the stones. We have some, this one is...
By epiphyte, you mean that this isn't getting planted into
Correct,
the
yes.
right?
It's being attached directly to the hardscape. So we have a few of those, like the narrow leaf fern, Java fern, and Bulbitis. I actually tried to figure out which plants, when they go above water or immersed, will actually continue to grow and potentially even flower and things like that. So, because then it plays into having the living wall. So the idea again is to have a border of the Cereus stone, then have heavily planted in the middle with epiphytes on the lower half and kind of coming out of it. And then as the plants grow and mature, eventually they'll break the water line and hopefully will grow immersed and flower and look great in that way.
And then the sand is going to border all around the stone?
Correct, yeah. So I like Colorado sand. I just find it's a bit more natural than some of the other brighter colors. And the different colors of the granules play really well into the grays of the Cereus stone. And then we have the wood, Manzanita. So we'll have to make sure that we have enough pieces cut short so that we can put it together. But the idea is to have pieces that come out of the water as well, to again continue to play with that theme. And then some that will be like this one here, a little bit lower, coming out almost like a root structure.
Draping over like onto the sand.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly, yeah. So something like that. And then with the sand around so that it focuses on the island scape itself.
And do you have, as far as plants, like for the heights and stuff, do you have an idea of working from taller to, or is it going to be a little bit mixed in?
No, actually that's really great. So I have things like hairgrass, Elocaris articularis mini. Try that 3 times fast. And my Cantama Monte Carlo. So the idea is to have the hairgrass and the Monte Carlo more on the forefront of it. And Monte Carlo is known to be able to kind of weep over things. So the idea is to have it in the corners and have that going over the hardscape and just kind of working itself into it, while the hairgrass will just be a different texture with it. And then we have these wonderful mosses. So Christmas moss, and I believe I got weeping moss as well, which we'll then use on parts of the wood, parts of the stones, to tie it all together. And then we have also taller grasses to then help graduate to the back, which is going to be the larger stem plants. Calanthium tenellum green, which I know grows really fast, but I love it too, yeah. But it grows really fast, so we'll have to keep it in check with maintenance because it can easily overtake everything, especially since we are going to be using pressurized CO2.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite? Is there a plant that you put in every scape?
It's probably Monte Carlo that I really like because it's so versatile. Like you can plant it in, get a beautiful carpet. You can put it as an epiphytic plant, so attached to the piece of hardscape. And as long as the water column has enough nutrients and you have enough light, it'll grow, immerse that, or it'll grow as an epiphytic plant. You can put it in between stones and things like that, and it always just seems to kind of grow up and above and over. So I do like that one. And I think hairgrass is the other one, which is just a classic plant. I mean, you got to have a little bit of grass here and there. I don't know of any natural area where you go to like a forest or a meadow where there isn't just grass
poking out.
And then the one that I've tried only once before, and I do love the color of it, is the Lobella cardinalis, which does get purpley.
Will it stay purpley underwater, or is it immersed that it stays?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're finally getting to the exciting part here. We're gonna start scaping, and since we've never scaped together before, it'll be fun. You've done most of the planning, so talk me through your process a little bit, and let's get started. Like, how do you want to go?
So again, I want to do an island scape with this, with the focus being mostly in the middle section, since this tank is getting viewed from the front almost at all times. So the first thing I'd like to do is to lay down a support system for the rocks that we'll be using, and then we will be starting right away with the rock formations. So you can just start with that. So this is egg crate light diffuser, and I like to use this to help disperse the weight of the stones more evenly out the tank, so they're not just focused on one area. I'm not worried about the tank being damaged, but the other part of it that I really enjoy is that when you place rocks on these directly, they tend to not shift. When you place them on soil or heavy sand beds, they will eventually start moving because that stuff always just moves. So yeah, we're just gonna start placing them right on there, and hopefully it'll keep everything in shape.
And do you start with like a big stone, or do you have any sort of method to how you lay your stonework out?
So I do like to start with the biggest stone, and in this case it's this one, and I do like to see where most of the character of the stone is. So luckily with Sirius stone, it does have a lot of character in most places, but clearly this stone was somewhat cut on the top and the bottom of these, so this isn't as interesting as, for example, these areas
sides,
here. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good place to start. Ideally, now that we've laid this stone down, these lines that come across, we should either complement those lines or do something completely contrast to them, to kind of give it some more character.
In your opinion, what do you think is the easiest stone to work with?
Like of stone types?
Yep.
River stones I think are probably the easiest because they're just all soft surfaces, so you don't have to worry too much about lines. I mean, some of them will have it, but they tend to have more color variation, so you have to think more of that, at least for me. So I like river stones for that, but
lava stone to me is probably the easiest to get texture and to stick together.
To stick together, yeah. So the hard part is going to be securing the wood.
And that's because it's going to float, you think?
Yeah, this is definitely going to float. Manzanita generally is lighter wood anyways, and it's completely dried out. So we'll have to use glue once we know where roughly we're putting it. So I think we should cut it here. So one thing that I also think about a lot when I'm setting up Hardscape is how difficult is it going to be to maintain?
Right. And by difficult, you mean, can you get your scraper down on the glass all the way around? Will you be able to go and trim plants?
Exactly. If I accidentally knock this, am I always going to be worried about touching it? So like here, So I usually like to have at least one finger, you know, from the hardscape to the glass, because that'll definitely fit a scraper if I need it. But
I'd almost say, like, if you were new at this, you might want to give yourself more room because it could shift.
yeah.
So let's get to gluing.
Yeah, I think it's all set and ready to go. And it's so, yeah, so the way that I like to do it is literally just grab a piece of paper towel, roll it up or fold it up in a way that it'll fit snugly where the contact point is. And then once it's contacted there and it has a piece on top, I just wet it in from one area and it gets rock hard. And then if you just take some soil and crush it, I usually just crush it between my fingers and just
Sprinkle
it on. It'll catch onto any part of the paper towel and at least turn it to a color that doesn't look like paper towel.
Right.
Yeah, as obvious. So.
The reason why we use batting is usually when you're trying to separate soil and sand. It helps from keeping, so if you were to put like all the soil in here, you've got little tiny cracks where it can kind of roll out. I was gonna say that having like the little grate like this is also really helpful because it kind of keeps some of the soil in place.
Some people like to put also the filter floss in the wedges that they see and then cover with sand, but I prefer to do it
From the
back.
Okay.
And the reason for it is because, and this is a really ridiculous reason, but a mono shrimp,
Yep.
if they get their hands on this saturated with mulm and detritus and all that stuff, they will just pull at it until there's nothing left because they'll eat. Once water is added into it, it's gonna absorb the water and it's actually gonna become smaller than what it is.
Right.
So the more that you have in there already, the better. How are you feeling?
I'm getting excited.
It's looking good. So I don't particularly have like in my head a certain plan of where the plants specifically go, with the exception of the foreground plants that we talked about putting in certain points right here. So we have hopefully that cascading effect by the Monte Carlo.
Yep.
Let's start with the foreground.
Okay.
So the 1-2 cups, I just pop right off. There is, the lid comes off. I usually just pop it out. I try to give it a squeeze in here to get all that juiciness off. And then from the outside, open it up. And just start taking tufts of it, and I like to roll them.
To make it easier to plant.
Some people like to rinse this off their plants. I've done it both ways. The gel one, definitely you should rinse off.
Okay.
But the liquid one, I usually just like to squeeze it and be on my way.
So, if you were to pick a tool, like, to say that was your most important tool, like the tool that you'd want to like really go and select, would it be tweezers, scissors? What would you say?
I think tweezers,
Tweezers?
because I've seen people use like household scissors to cut in their aquariums. So I think a scissor is a scissor, but tweezers are much different. Like even I look at yours, the fact that they're so fine up the tip, I really like it. Like mine are much more bulky, and that does actually sometimes give me some issues when I'm planting in really tight spaces. Do you prefer the curved tweezers or the straight ones?
Straight ones.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It smells really good.
The labella?
The Hatonia.
Oh.
Look, it's like, oh, sorry, I put it around. I don't know, like celery?
It does smell good. You know what else smells really good? Have you used Bacopa?
No.
Oh, that's got incredible, like, you feel like you're in a garden. So are we ready?
I
Are we
think
there?
we're ready to flood. So the slower it is, the less dust we'll have. So Christine, how do you feel about the scape?
I think it turned out really great. It exceeded my expectations. The plant selection already looks phenomenal, and it's still got to grow and fill in. How about yourself?
Yeah, I love what we did. I think it turned out really well. It was great to use a bunch of new plants as well and stones that I haven't used before. The best part was obviously doing this with you and getting it to look so nice. It was really nice to do the back and forth and working together with it and whatnot. So I think it's going to turn out great. Obviously it's in its early stages, but once it fills out, then it's going to look beautiful. So we'd like to thank Felix Smart for hosting this. Thank you so much for bringing us in and for allowing us to scape this beautiful tank and for being just free to do what we kind of wanted with it. I'd also like to thank all of you for sticking around, for watching this, and for following us on social media. So if you'd like to follow Felix Smart, you do @FelixSmart, and then myself, Oscar, Planted Element, and
Aquascape Neophyte, and hopefully between the three of us, we'll all be providing updates as the scape matures.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.